Hey there, I'm Mindi Grissom, Director of Product Marketing at Unsupervised, and want to discuss skipping the dashboards and getting straight to the why behind our KPIs. Business growth hinges on three seemingly basic and easy questions: what, why, and how. And if we answer all of these questions, it's a beautiful flow that allows us to make the best decisions and grow. Now, most of us have a pretty decent grasp on what's happening in our business as we measure progress using metrics and KPIs. In fact, we can all build some pretty sophisticated dashboards that alert us the moment our KPI is outside of a threshold. If you don't have those sophisticated dashboards, you might have some crazy Excel workbook that's basically a work of art. I've even heard of people that have 50 tabs of Google Analytics open at any time to monitor the status of their business. But then a KPI starts going the wrong direction. Maybe our web conversion's going down. It's usually not a dramatic drop, but something we see falling slowly one day until it lands on an executive's desk. And now it's a fire. We often jump straight to the how. Let's run a free shipping promotion, offer discount codes, and a new email campaign. Then the exec team says, well, I need data on this, or what does the data say? And that gives us all heart palpitations. It's hard to figure out why to prove that how tactic will actually work. In fact, I've heard of war rooms being created to find the problem. I've worked with thousands of analysts that burn the midnight oil to find anything, and I mean anything, that they could throw into that PowerPoint presentation, right? Something like, there's something interesting going on in the Eastern region. This might be important. We start slicing and dicing those dashboards like they are Michelin star chefs. But we often are just following rabbit trails and end back just grasping at straws. And so we end up making best guesses because our dashboards don't tell us why things are happening. Or maybe we find some interesting things, but we don't really know the real impact. And without knowing the real impact, it's hard to know how we're going to drive our business forward. And so we end up in a vicious, broken cycle that is impossible for us to grow our business. Yet, what do we continue to hear? We need more dashboards. Or can we see this on a dashboard? By focusing just on the dashboard, we are only going to see the tip of the iceberg. Now, as I said, we have a good grasp on the what part, but this wasn't always the case. About 10 years ago, I was given ownership of some of the analytics for a region in our global CPG company. At the time, there were no dashboards, or at least nothing that our satellite office had access to. Instead, this monstrosity of a workbook was passed around. And before I had the project, there was a person literally writing down numbers and typing them into an email each week. So I took that ginormous Excel spreadsheet, I combined it with some Nielsen data, and then I created these sweet thermometer charts that would update automatically. And I thought this was the bee's knees, and the company was pretty excited about it too. Now that was 10 years ago. Why do I bring that up? Because I think the same thing is going to happen in 10 years from now as we look at the why. We're going to look back and say, wow, remember how you wanted to know why a KPI was going up or down, and we used to perform this digital CSI to get there? I think we're all going to look back and say, what were we thinking? Because finding the why can be so much easier by leveraging the right type of AI. So let's look closer at how we can get to the why today. So you're in this executive meeting, and website conversion is down. And there's likely so many different reasons for this. And so the execs start asking things. Okay, well, conversions are down. Why? Cart abandonment rate is up. Why? AOV is down 12% month over month and 17% from last year. Why? Well, the action items from that meeting is to figure out how to fix it. So we jump to the dashboard and follow signals. Maybe we see a number that looks out of the ordinary, so we follow that signal. I can see that Colorado sticks out in this dashboard, so I double click on it. And I see that my revenue went down 17% there. Maybe I continue to double click to try and squeeze out something interesting. Most likely, I end up in a spreadsheet of data. And if we're there, we're screwed. We're looking at the raw data. More often than not, I'm going down many different rabbit trails like this, trying to follow the signals. But at the end of the day, it's like trying to find Waldo. Now, I don't know if everyone is familiar with Where's Waldo, but you are often tasked with finding a variety of items in a sea of seemingly similar items. You are tracking down the nugget of information. You knew what you were looking for, but it was hard. Sometimes you'd get lucky and you'd spot Waldo right off the bat. Sometimes you'd spend hours trying to find his key or his camera. I even knew people who had extensive Waldo methodologies, and they would cover every square inch, but they'd often miss some of the different pieces because they were often looking for one at a time. And that's because we're human. And then, you find one item, but you're not finding them all at the same time. So you're missing key parts of the story. What is this story actually trying to tell us? Again, it's back to that digital CSI. So let's go back to our web conversion. It's going down. Are we able to clearly identify why? The why should give us more specifics to help us know where to focus. It doesn't tell us how to fix the business. It may not be something we can even action on, but it's like the cheat code. I need to see why my conversions are going down or what drives it up and lean into that. For example, knowing what channel or traffic source, what campaign, what audience or customer segment, what times are valuable. All of this in one combination is really what I can see to drive my metrics. Some of these can be combined to make a really good story so that we can understand related insights to make that business case. In the Where's Waldo example, it's telling me to focus here, and that's the power of why. So how do we get a better why? Well, looking at all those dashboards, there's a full process behind it. So just like 10 years ago, building those thermometer charts, I think we're all going to look back at this process and laugh a little bit. So you start with the data, and most of us have access to the marketing data that we need to use. Now, we often don't use all of the data because of this dreaded prep process. We're cleansing and joining the data. It's like performing analytics gymnastics in the Olympics of analytics. We often remove text data because nobody has time to deal with that. We remove columns of data because our data is just too big, or it seems like it's noise for our story. And then we spend a lot of time trying to find the why, either to back up our suggested business projects in our how, or just trying to find the different impacts to actually make a difference in our organization. And that leads to the execution of our how strategy, our tactics, and hopefully our why. Unfortunately, less than 30% of us get any outcomes from our data. Yet, we still call ourselves data-driven. Now, the problem with this process is that the top part is compute intensive, and we have humans doing this part, and we're not great at that. It's the part of every survey where everyone says that they hate this part of their job. It takes a really long time. Just like when my old colleague would write down the numbers, there's a huge opportunity for human error. We unintentionally introduce bias by eliminating some data, and while that may seem meaningless right now, little after little, it's like that temperature gets turned up until we realize it's too late. If we don't start to look to solve this now, our ship will severely be off course. So we have this data, and then we use AI to help us execute our strategy. But AI is now taking orders from bad data, or from us not really understanding the why behind the movement of that KPI. And the AI doesn't have real-world context, which is why models can be severely dangerous to us as a business. This process just compounds our problems. So instead, unsupervised machine learning and AI have emerged, and by putting that type of learning at the beginning of the process, we see a big change. AI can handle more data, plain and simple. Computers are really good at that stuff. AI can maniacally slice and dice data in hours to days, depending on the size. It can expand data through feature generation in ways that we wouldn't dream. I think back to those thermometer charts and how excited everyone was at a simple enrichment of Nielsen data. The power of using unsupervised AI instead of supervised machine learning can truly change how we look at data. So AI does this unbiased, and it gives humans these insights that have been prioritized based on the impact to the KPI. So now we, as humans, can do something with this information. Imagine being an intelligence center that can answer people's questions so we can actually make an impact. That's what we're here to do. That's what gets us excited about our jobs, to see the impact we have on our business and the world. Now, maybe we can make an immediate impact by simply switching our landing page for Moonlight Madness, or maybe we have a longer-term project to create a new cross-sell opportunity. And now we can create this robust business case tied directly to the impact on our KPI. Maybe some of it requires more understanding because now the data is telling us the story. We're now getting answers to the questions we never thought to ask. Now I know, this all sounds great, right? But we've heard this all before. The promise of data, the promise of AI. But most AI today is the supervised learning kind, which doesn't allow the data to tell us the story. Unsupervised machine learning allows data to tell us the story. Because we aren't telling the AI what to find, the entire premise of unsupervised learning is that the AI is learning and finding what's important on its own. And this very seemingly minor difference is where the power of AI can truly come from. So let's see what this looks like in real life. There's a company called Charlotte's Web. This is an industry-leading pioneer creating whole plant hemp health supplements. These are products that can help people improve their lives naturally. Now, e-commerce is hyper-competitive, and the CBD markets are on fire right now. Now, Charlotte's Web owns their supply chain to manufacture their products, and they see their biggest competitor being the e-commerce route. How do you compete against the likes of Amazon? Well, this team saw that data would be their competitive advantage. Amazon has massive amounts of data armies, and Charlotte's Web has a team of 3 people. To say they were an underdog or Cinderella story is putting it lightly. They don't just sell one product either. They have a vast number of products, subscriptions, and packaging options for their customers. Now, the data was super complex. URL strings, timestamps, text data, you name it, they have it. And they needed to know why average order value would go up or down, why customer lifetime value would move up or down in order to create better how strategies. So, like many of you, they have web, customer, and transactional data. One that's particularly tricky to use is web data. This is how we understand the movement of our customers. Where do they land? Where do they go? Which route is most successful? What do people buy? How long do they stay on specific pages, right? Well, all of this data was over 40 million rows of data, 17 tables, 1,200 columns. Stitching this data together alone can take a really long time. In fact, it was taking them weeks to months. The AI was able to do this in hours. Now, as I had mentioned, unsupervised machine learning is pretty cool because it allows the data to tell you the story. And in doing so, it starts to create additional columns of data between things that looks interesting. So with all of this data, and the AI expanded it further by over 400%. Now, this is not a real insight by them, but it's modeled after something similar to what they found. Their data didn't have a column of data that said first page name that a human had to go create. No one was specifically looking for first page name. The AI tore apart the URL string and created a column of data for that. So the marketing team was able to come in and see that the average order value was down, and then immediately see the biggest drivers and challenges. What was pushing that number up and what was dragging it down? The AI prioritized those insights based on the impact to the KPI. So maybe something that showed that there was 90% less AOV, but it was only for 2 small customer sales, it's not going to show up as being a top priority. These insights are presented in natural language so anyone can understand it. You don't have to have a data science degree. But we could also always go explore additional ones beyond these top impacts. For example, we could focus specifically on time in cart or promotions, places where we can make an impact. Now, once they found these insights, they were able to turn them into opportunities. This is really important because it closes the loop of analytics. This allows teams to really prove their value. Remember how we said 30% of teams were getting outcomes from their data, which means 70% of us aren't? Well, now that's a relic of the past. A place where teams can collaborate and work together on initiatives. You can attach the insights, and they're updated so you can see how your progress is improving. Charlotte's Web created opportunities around cross-sells, new customer segments, and new campaigns. Charlotte's Web is easily identifying what's happening, why, and how they can fix it. This knowledge is allowing them to not only compete in the market, but be a leader in the world of 9,000-pound gorillas out there. Now, the results are still flowing in, but data is definitely their competitive advantage. From identifying subsegments of customers that optimized marketing and promotions, they were able to get 2 times the revenue for their big annual promotion. They're tracking over $2 million in other opportunities, and they turned a low-marketed product into a niche seller. In fact, Paul, the CIO, says it's been a game changer. Now, these results happen across all industries for marketers. For example, why are loan applications down? Having specific insights about mileage and types of customers can lead to great impact. Or consumer services about conversions for second, third, fourth visits. Identifying specific drivers such as products, checkout procedures, or related services for different customers allows for greater impact for every marketing dollar spent. At the end of the day, dashboards just aren't enough. It's time to skip the drill downs and get straight to understanding why. We show you how the KPI is trending and the top impacts prioritized by the AI, so that by taking those top 5, you might be able to solve for 80% of your KPI issue. Imagine being able to change your business one KPI at a time. It's time to answer those 3 questions with confidence and speed by leveraging the power of AI to be the growth machine that your marketing team was meant to be. Reach out today to see how fast you can get to the whys that drive your business.